Welcome to Am I the Bleep?
Welcome to Am I the Bleep, the show where two coaches, coincidentally named Jonathan, we didn't plan it like that, coach people on the Am I the Asshole subreddit. And we figure out, are they in fact the asshole? But the first thing we do, although I don't know if we've ever done it on the show, is we coach each other. Jonathan, I have a question for you.
Yes, I'm here. I'm Jonathan too.
So I joined the pool and I've gone 3 times, have already lost my goggles. Do not know where they are. Now, technically you can swim without goggles. It's not great for the eyeballs, but you can do it. But I've also realized I've never worn a pair of goggles that fit my weird shaped head. Do I invest in bespoke 3D mapped $100 goggles that fit my face perfectly? Do I buy, a crappy pair of $30 something goggles that'll inevitably, lose or break, or do I just go goggleless?
Okay, so firstly, when you say you joined the pool, you didn't join the Am I the Asshole pool. You joined a pool, like a swimming pool.
Well, I might have joined the Am I the Asshole. I might have joined both pools at the same time. I did lose my goggles very fast. They weren't new, but I like to think that you should take care of your things, and I just paid the ADHD tax on this one.
The ADHD tax. So, my next question is, when you say bespoke custom 3D mapped goggles for $100, is that literally the price of custom bespoke 3D mapped
Yeah,
goggles?
yeah.
That seems really
A
cheap for
hundred
something
bucks.
that's custom and bespoke and 3D mapped.
Doesn't it just? And it does make me suspicious. But I've read reviews. Apparently, it's I'm not going to buzz market them because they didn't pay us to advertise. But it sounds to me like it's legit. And I don't know. It seems like a cool thing to have. There is a real chance that I'll lose them because I didn't plan to lose these ones, and we saw how that worked out. But still, at least while I have them, they should fit my face just right.
So, what's stopping you from just getting those?
Well, $100 is a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
to
Is it USD
spend
or
on
Canadian?
goggles. I think it's USD, so I
Okay, so
think it'll
like
come out to
five
like,
hundred dollars Canadian,
yeah, exactly. Well,
5,000.
I'm also just looking, I'm looking at I suddenly have a new expense that now costs me $100 more, and I have like all these different things. It's not like I have so much free money that like this wouldn't be a hit, but at the same time, I already spent the money on the 10 visits to the pool. So I'm wondering, should I just not make that investment worthless by making another investment? I don't know. What do you think?
Do you feel like your experience of swimming will be improved with custom bespoke 3D mapped goggles?
I mean, I have to imagine it'll at least be improved the level that it will be if I get goggles. I don't know. I've never had them on, so I can't tell you it'll be clear. But I was futzing around with the other goggles a lot because like a little bit of water was seeping through no matter how I adjusted them, so they weren't perfect.
And also, do you feel like the 3D mapped custom bespoke goggles um will help reduce your frustration about swimming? Like is there something stopping you going from swimming otherwise? Like do the goggles, here's the question, do the goggles that you currently futz around with, do those
Yeah.
impede your enjoyment of swimming?
Yeah, I would say that they were impeding my enjoyment, futzing around with them and having to stop after every lap to
And
get the water out.
how many of those goggles have you bought that you have to futz around with?
In a lifetime, I remember when I was taking swimming lessons, I probably had to get goggles like twice a year because I would either break them from trying to adjust them too aggressively, or they would just be poor quality, or I just got so fed up with them. I don't know. I just
So the
remember having to buy a lot of goggles.
and how do they 3D map it? Like, do they send you some? Do you have to go like measure your head, or
No, they use your phone.
oh,
Yeah.
it's an augmented reality type thing?
I think so. Yeah, it's the new Apple whatevers that the map onto your face.
Okay, so I think it sounds to me like the investment you've already had in goggles and swimming has been really high, and if it costs $100 US to not spend, you know, $80 a year in goggles, that water seeps into your eyeball anyways. I don't know. It sounds like a good investment. What do you think?
Assuming I don't lose them.
Assuming you don't lose them, but I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure on custom bespoke 3D mapped goggles, there's goggle insurance, goggle assurance. That's got to be
Oh,
a thing.
oh, interesting, interesting. I should look into that goggle reclaiming technology.
Also, you can do like what kids do with glasses, where they have like the necklace thing to keep it on if it falls off. Just tie a rope around the band.
It's a lot of kindly elderly gentlemen at my public pool, and knowing that if I do that, I will look like the oldest person at the pool, which is kind of impressive in its own right. I don't hate that idea. I feel like I might as well, join the club and feel part of the gang by looking the oldest I could possibly look by doing that.
Well, I think the cot. Do, do you think you'd actually be embarrassed by that? I feel like you're the last person who would be embarrassed by that. I feel like you would go talk to all of your bros in the Schwitz
No,
after and be like, "Yo, you want to know how I keep my goggles and don't lose them anymore? I tied a thread, and like I'm sure you'd be pumped about that. It'd be something that you would tell your kids about one day, and your kids' kids. They'd be like,
talk
that
talking
Grandpa
to all my
John
bros
knew what
and
was up. Grandpa John,
talking to all my bros in the Schwitz sounds like a Drake lyric.
my bros in the Schwitz."
Okay, well, that's pretty actionable. I think it makes a lot of sense what you just said. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that this is a worthwhile investment considering all the things I have in front of me. And you know what? I think I was already leaning towards that, but I'm glad to hear it
You
from
wanted
another person.
validation.
I just want validation. Isn't that what we all want?
Yeah, I think like for me, for example, something like I can relate to myself is I used to have like a really cheap electric guitar, and it's good. It's two
Sure.
hundred bucks. You can plug into an amp, and at the end of the day, like by the time you add pedals and everything, and like, does it really matter? And the answer is sometimes and kind of. And the reason is cheap guitars often have cheap tuning pegs that are made out of plastic, and there's a cheap bridge, and every time you sit down to play it goes out of tune. It's like very susceptible to like cracks and all of those kind of things, and the pickups are cheap, and things that you might be playing really well might not sound great, or there might be a lot of intonation problems, and that detracts from your enjoyment. So is it worth $500 to get a good guitar with good components so that I can enjoy playing guitar more? Absolutely. So, like save up a little longer, you get it. I The difference is you're not losing so many guitars. Hopefully, it's a bigger object that hopefully you're not taking into the swimming pool with you. But you never know.
Yeah, the greater Toronto area is just littered with guitars that you've left at different venues.
Well, uh, there was a time when it might have been the case.
Yeah,
And right now, there's a time it might be the case that we jump into our first post. What do you think?
let's do it. I'm into
Okay.
it.
Am I the asshole for getting high so my relatives don't try and pawn their children on me? I live in British Columbia. It's legal there. And my family often hosts at our home because we live on a lake. However, I seem to always get roped into watching the kids, which means I don't get to enjoy my life when we have guests. My husband will drink beer with his brother and my dad, and my mother in law and sister in law will go on winery visits, and I end up at the house responsible for my nieces and nephews. So last weekend, I made sure I was high as fuck when they showed up. My husband and his brother had to watch the kids because I was in no condition. Their mom is pissed at me because she trusts me, in quotes, to make better choices. I told her that my free time is valuable and I wasn't free childcare. My husband had already had a few, so his brother had to stay sober. Poor baby. My husband thinks I should have tried talking to them again for the 50th time instead of getting fucked up. I'm guessing that means high. And I think they now know better than to ask me even if I want to watch the kids. Am I the asshole? My favorite part about this is that I'm reading this to somebody who's wearing like a pineapple shirt, like somebody who's.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's a
I'll say
wheat
no
thing
more.
too, isn't it?
The pineapple. I'm not sure. It just like
I
feels.
just
It
I
gives
just
me
like that
stoner
it's
vibes. If I'm
fruity.
gonna be honest.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so should I do the stoner voice while I'm doing this? Like, yeah, man. All right, dude.
Do it for 10 seconds.
Gee.
Yeah.
Okay,
Did you
so
say
bro,
jinkies?
listen. Jinkies, bro. All right. No, you're not the asshole, man. You're avoidant, dude. You're like just trying to get out of a bad situation using the good herb, and that isn't what it's made for, my dude. You know? Like it's made for having a good time, not making other people have a bad time.
I feel
Okay,
like you're the
that was
worst version of Owen Wilson. That's what it.
thank
That's the
you.
vibe it gives me.
Wow. No, yeah, honestly, I don't think this person is an asshole at all. I think this person is avoidant. They don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation, which is a conversation they're right in, which is the funniest part of it, right? It's like you are no one's free childcare. You're completely correct. You don't have to sacrifice your vacay, but that you went straight to, so I'm going to incapacitate myself is um it doesn't necessarily achieve the goal. And I'll explain why. That you are not going to have to watch them this time is completely correct. But what about a time where you can't get high and you're not interested in watching the kids? What if you just you want to just create a blanket statement being like, I will be asked if I want to watch these kids. And if I say yes, then that's great. If I do not, then someone else will take a turn because I have done it many times. I have done my due. I am not a babysitter. I am here to have a good time too. I think that, although we don't know this person's gender, it just sounds a lot like falling into gender norms and gender roles. And I feel like that's also playing a role here. But I just think, man, this is not a cool way to act as a parent, to drop off your kids with a family member and be like, you take care of them. This is your problem now. I'm not asking, I'm telling. What do you think, Jonathan?
So I think this is kind of an asshole thing, and I'll talk about that. So for me, I think, well, firstly and most importantly, we talk a lot about like power struggles, and by winning a power struggle by incapacitating yourself, is that something you're gonna stick to every time to like win your case? It's like, sorry, like I got obliterated. I'm not gonna watch the children. It's not the best move. You're not going to win every time. This time, once in a while, a hard stop or something like that, if you've had this conversation 50 times, I get it. It's kind of in fun, whatever. But do you win? Do you actually win? And the answer is no. What could be done instead? One, I'd want to know how these conversations are happening on the regular. So if this is the 50th time they're having the conversation, have they just said, like my free time is valuable? Or have they said, hey, like every time I end up watching the kids while you go to the winery, you're all having beer. Is there a way we can take turns? Like mind blowing, turn taking, right? Like there's a lot of different options here that I think would get them closer to the goal, because like they still have the family over, they're still coming to visit, and every time you're getting roped into it, is there a conversation that you can have ahead of time before everyone makes their winery plans and their beer plans that says, hey, like last time was my turn, this time is your turn. It's like when you go to the bar with your friends every week, you take turns being the designated driver. Like there's things to do and things to be done to make a healthier choice. Avoiding a problem by getting obliterated will unlikely solve your problem, although hopefully you're smoking that good, and at least you had a good time. Um, that's the real coaching right here. As long as you are smoking that good, you're fine. I have asthma. I don't really smoke, so I hope I'm catching the right vibe here. I'm not wearing a pineapple shirt, so I don't have the same advice on that topic. But yeah, I would say kind of the asshole.
I'm not very well versed in the good, the kind, but
The wow wow.
The wow. But I'm not averse to it. I just think that of course we're not averse to it. We're Canadian, but the
We're well versed in it.
yeah, we're well
Not
versed
averse, well versed.
But the I don't agree with you. I don't agree that they're an asshole. I think that they're doing
to be
the
fair,
wrong
kind
thing.
of.
Yeah, fair. I don't even think they're kind of the asshole. I give them clearance on the asshole part because they're not wrong. They're doing wrong. They're going about it wrong, but they're not wrong. You're allowed to not watch other people's kids.
I agree, but
It's not here on you.
does avoiding a conversation and like getting obliterated, bring you closer to
Make you an
being not an
asshole?
asshole? I believe it does make you kind of an asshole. I think it's an asshole move.
I think we don't know enough that they haven't had a conversation. But also, I would say that even if they have had a conversation, or they haven't had a conversation and they're completely avoiding it, I think avoidance doesn't make you an asshole. It makes you anxious. And being anxious doesn't make you an asshole. It means that you are internalizing this fear that you can't say no and deciding like, well, then I'm just going to remove my ability to say yes. And that is, like, cool, you're thinking with portals, but I think that you're avoiding just having a courageous conversation, and that's not a great way to make your dreams come true. But it's not being an asshole, I don't think. Just being
Well,
wrong.
I guess for me, what I'm seeing here is like, for example, this sentence: my brother had already had my husband had already had a few, so his brother had to stay sober. Poor baby. It's like there's like I get that this is a situation and you're doing the hard stop thing, but there's like a vindictiveness here, it seems. And again, like we said from the beginning, if they've literally had 50 conversations, what have those conversations sounded like? And maybe we would get more information. But based on the post, it's just like hard stop and not wanting to have the conversation. And even if you're feeling anxious, we would want to talk about, okay, you're avoiding the problem. No problem. Is there a better way to do this? Yeah, let's have the conversation and let's talk about what that conversation would be like. Getting obliterated doesn't solve the problem or help, right?
Having many conversations before doesn't necessarily tell us how the conversations have been going. So I think the coaching
Yeah.
would have to start with like what the conversations have been, how have they responded, what how would this person be critical of how they've approached it so far? Would they be like, I've done nothing, I did everything I could, I was very explicit, I told them I'm not doing this anymore? And yeah, but I can't imagine that you say to someone, I'm not watching your kids, and then they're just like, cool. And then they drop them off. Like I feel like that doesn't happen. I feel like what's more likely is that it was a very gentle conversation that didn't get the point across. I don't know. I'm not going to assume anything. I'm just going to say that removing your ability to say yes doesn't make you an asshole. It's just not a great way to go about this, because you are I think you're pointing out something right, Jonathan. It's vindictive, and I think that the vindictiveness is justified, but the wrong way to go about it. I guess that's where we differ. Like, I agree that it's vindictive. I just don't think that they're being an asshole about it. I think they've just been like, whatever, I'm outie. I'm done.
Does being vindictive not an asshole make? This is the question.
That's the question. I see where you're coming from. I just don't get asshole vibes from this. I guess it really depends. I think we don't have in the story. I think that's the problem. Whenever I find myself in this kind of position where I'm like, I'm missing something here. Like, I'm not fully convinced either way. You need more details, and obviously we don't have that luxury. But I think that this person, at the very least, has some justification. We agree on that, right?
Yeah, and the truth is, in coaching, like when we're the trick is that, and you're exactly right, is that if you don't know the answer when you're reading somebody's journal or entry, you don't have nearly enough data to support the coaching. So you always go back, ask more questions. And here we would jump to, you know, what have the other 49 conversations that you've had sounded like? You know, what does getting roped into watching the kids mean? And we would want to go there and, like where maybe ask how other scenarios sound and go when this individual, this original poster, dangerous underscore strategy 94, is getting roped into things. Do they normally shut down and avoid? We would want to get into that. And if you're thinking, like, you can agree with us, you can disagree with us, you can agree with one Jonathan or the other Jonathan, but if you're thinking something different or something same, send us an email at jonathans@thejournalthattalksback.com. Let us know what you think. We're very, very curious. We don't know all the assholes, so if you have some different thoughts, let us know.
Did millennials kill the babysitting industry or something? Like, do babysitters not exist anymore? Do people not babysit?
It's a good question,
I
actually.
don't even know of any babysitters.
No,
Like
babysitting
if
is
I
big now.
let's say I had a child next year and I had to like find a babysitter. Where? Who? How? Do they need vulnerable sector checks? Like, what are we talking about here? Because I feel like that would solve this problem. I just don't even know if they're a thing anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a good question. Like, did you think about hiring a babysitter if all the adults wanted to go get obliterated somewhere, right? That's a good question. How old are these children that we're leaving? Like, these are important questions. A babysitter would be a great
Yeah,
solution. Like,
these kids are 19 and 20.
yeah, right.
And
So, or even if they're in their teens, like the question is, like, why not a babysitter? It's a good question. Like, why is there this expectation just on the original poster that they have to be the ones to watch the kids, right?
True. And why should I be the one to read the next post? Not a
Kind of the
strong
asshole. Kind
transition.
of the asshole.
Yeah, kind of the asshole. Okay, fair enough. I'll agree with you on that one. Am
Perfect.
I the asshole for putting out my neighbor's fire with my garden hose while we're on a fire ban? Just for context, our sky is literally orange and filled with smoke already. There are weather alerts for smoke pollution, etc. Our entire area is on an extremely strict fire ban. I was out watering my garden once the sun went down, and my neighbor was out lighting up a campfire. I yelled over and told him we're on a fire ban, as if he didn't know our entire area is covered in smoke from the fires. And he yells back that it's contained and we're not in a forest, so who cares? So I took my hose and I soaked his entire fire pit and all of the wood I could see. He started screaming profanities at me and telling me he's going to call the cops. I told him to call, as they will tell them that he was in the wrong, as we're on a fire ban. There have been many homes destroyed, animals who have lost their lives, and firefighters out there who are trying their best to contain it. Why have an open fire when it's not necessary? Am I the asshole here?
So
Oh, man.
it's an interesting one. Um, Before using force, I prefer to, talk and try and get to a point of reasoning. We live in a world where there's 7 billion people, and is that how many people there are now? And at least 7 billion opinions. I mean, we're Jewish. We know for every Jew there's like 8 opinions. So like that's a lot of opinions. And when you're talking to somebody else, and even in our conversations here when we disagree, the goal of disagreeing is you disagree, you get to hear each other's point of view and come to a point of reasoning. Part of the reason that we're not, and there is like these huge forest fires that are going on in Newfoundland and Quebec right now here in Canada. And part of the issue with fire, and I'm not sure about all the science behind it, but it ruins the air. And the more fire there is, the less breathable air there is. And then everyone struggles. We live west of where everything's going, and my asthma is having problems here, and we're not even in the same city. Like I've had to basically be inside for a few days so being, very close where the sky is orange, having that fire is not cool. So was the original poster in the truest sense of it? Yeah, there's a problem with the atmosphere. Adding more things to it is a problem. The problem I have is when you just like hard stop something by force, it's usually not gonna end well. In this case, yeah, like what's the neighbor gonna do? They're gonna just start another fire, probably, right? The ground is soaked, so what are they gonna do? They're gonna build like a little fire beside it. It's not gonna actually stop the problem.
Well, that's actually not true. If your wood is soaked, then you're not starting another fire.
Yeah, but the wood is in the fire pit, right? It might be like you have other space to start a fire. If you have a fire pit in the back.
I think he's saying that he soaked, he waterlogged all the wood that he could see in the neighbor's backyard. Yes. So that fire situation has been stopped, quelled, if you
like. And also in this case too, like you could literally say, hey, like this is something that I'm uncomfortable by. I'm just gonna call like the non-emergency police number or non-emergency fire person number and like have them have that conversation with them, right? So I think like taking force makes it kind of an asshole thing to do, but morally and ethically, I think they're in the right. Like they're causing a problem. I just would have come to the solution and worked with them in a different way. I would have like tried to reason with my neighbor, and if it got to a point, I would call an authority and anonymously or something like that. But how would I coach this original post?
Since we're not here to moralize, why? Let me ask why. Why choose peace? why not choose violence? Why not just completely soak through all the wood and solve the problem immediately? Why is that not the right thing to do?
Yeah, so I think that you have to have that neighbor after that neighbor's not leaving, and if they're the person who kind of has this vibe about them, there's going to be more problems in the future. And when there's actual danger happening, people tend to make more rash decisions. Like there's an escalation that's possible to happen. Personally, I don't like escalations. That's why it's like, you go for reasoning first, and when not, you get an authority. Like in this case, have a firefighter come and just talk to them about it, right? It could be like an educational problem. It could be a few different things, like not being in the forest. So who cares? The skies are literally orange, like there's obviously a disconnect between what's going on and what they're doing. So like if there's a better solution to dealing with it, why use force, right? What do you think?
I agree with you, and I think that I guess I would put it like this. When COVID started and I was walking out of a pharmacy and I was just zoned out. I was just like walking to my car and I took off my mask because I was outside and I wasn't really paying attention to where I was going, and I walked very close, and I didn't bump into her, but I walked very close to an older lady who had her mask on, and she just went off on me. She just started screaming, and the funny thing is that I was just like, I think I would also be weirded out if someone was walking so close to me without a mask during, the height of COVID. But I said to her, like, listen, if you scream at every person who walks by you, we're not going to make it through this thing. That's all I said. I walked away after that, but I just said we're not going to make it through if we're all trying to strangle each other all the time. It just doesn't work that way. There has to be a system. There can't just be, everyone taking it into their own hands, because then you're just constantly worried about like your neighbors, and that part isn't like, that isn't necessary in a pandemic response. In a
You
fire
chose
response,
reason.
it's also, yeah, like I understood why she was upset, but because I was just like surprised, not upset, I decided to, stand my ground in the way that I thought I was right, which is we shouldn't be screaming at each other in the streets. That's not helpful. Um and I think that this person here is right. Just like I thought that lady was right to not, to be clear. But I think that constantly trying to, not vigilante, that's not the word, but trying to police each other, or I guess fire brigade each other, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. That a society doesn't make. Like, you have to have systems where a voice of authority comes in and it can escalate, but it can't just be all of us just like trying to do what we think is right all the time, and fix all the big problems. That being said, I don't think this person was malicious. And I think that they are correct in that you shouldn't have a fire during a fire ban. I just don't think that this is the way people will. I don't think this is how we win the war, if that makes sense. I don't think this
Yeah,
is how,
totally.
in the long term, we solve the problem. I think this is how we cause more problems, by making people um, dig their heels into the ground and be like, because spite is an amazing motivator that people often forget. Spite can make the world turn. You can build a whole city on spite. And if you really spite someone, you'll light as many fires as you want during a fire ban, because you're just to show up someone who you hate. And I think that is what we're trying to avoid here. We're trying to avoid people making rash, emotional, stupid decisions, and we want people to be thoughtful and kind. And I think you got to model that behavior in order to inspire it in others.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? When you and I think this is what we're both trying to say is that when you have a conversation with somebody and like there's some kind of conflict, like you think one way, like original poster did here, compared to their neighbor, you're just having a conversation. That does not equal escalation. And if you invited, in this case, an authority after you had your conversation, like, hey, look, like, this is really troublesome to me. Um, if you're going to keep having a fire during this ban, I'm going to call a fire person to just come and talk to you about it. Like, that's all you have to do. But here, taking the hose out, taking it out yourself, you're actively escalating something. And to your point, it's possible that in this case, you're creating somebody who's now in a spiteful situation and they're going to light fires. And if there's a fire ban, these fires, there's dry grass, things can get out of control quickly. It's not worth it, right? Like, the danger of doing those kind of things is higher. Instead, reason, have a reasonable conversation. And if it's not, call somebody who can, right? Access your resources. There's better solutions here. It's not time to be the vigilante. You're not Daredevil. You're not Spider-Man. Although the other day I caught something and I was like, maybe, but it wasn't the case.
I know you've been waiting for a sign for just shy
Oh,
of
it was
30 years,
incredible.
but
Literally, two glasses fell out of the cupboard and I was just like, and somehow it just, I don't even know. I
did you
went
make the sound?
no, it was slow motion. But it was really cool. It was a special moment for me, a very, very special moment for me, just like this next post is going to be for you as I read it out loud.
Nice, very good.
Yeah, as always, we just like validate each other's segues.
There's no other way.
Exactly.
That's how we make the world go around, is by validating each other's segues. Cool
Absolutely.
segue.
Cool segue. Am I the asshole for not babysitting my ex-husband's kid? An alternate account for obvious reasons. The original poster's 30-year-old female, their ex-husband, 32-year-old male, and I have 2 children, 4-year-old male, 2-year-old female. We have been divorced just about 6 months, and he is now expecting a baby with his new girlfriend. I'm admittedly not over him. We were together for 10 years, my entire adulthood. It was and is a messy split. I'm still bitter and hurt about it, and he seems to have completely moved on somehow. When we had our oldest, neither of us wanted him in daycare. No judgment, we just didn't feel comfortable. So I stayed home and eventually started my own business that allows me to work 99% remotely. My parents are also local and retired and help me out as much as they can. This arrangement works for me and I get to spend time with both of my kids. Now, X's girlfriend is 5 months pregnant. They got into a huge fight because she asked him to tour daycares and he said absolutely not. He wants her to stay home with the baby. None of his kids are to go to daycare. Admittedly, the ones here do suck. He called me to vent and I listened, and then he dropped the bomb. He asked me if I was willing to take care of their baby since I'm home with R2 and get help from my parents. And when I have to take the kids to the office, I can because I own it. He mentioned that I know how he feels about his kids in one of these daycares, and I sort of lost it on him. It was a year and a half of walled up anger and hurt, and I said some nasty things that I've since apologized for. Fast forward 3 days later, new girlfriend pulled me to the side when I dropped off my kids to their house and asked why I was so ugly about it, and why I thought my kids were better than hers, and why her baby doesn't deserve the same things mine got. I never said that, but apologized if anything came off like that. Told her I'm happy for them, I'm not, but pleasantries, but was certainly not going to babysit their kid. She's a nurse, so I guess she can't work from home. Doesn't want to give up her career, but they should have thought about that. I left before it blew up again, but X called me about 2 hours ago, 2 hours later, and asked me to come get the kids because he and new girlfriend were fighting. He didn't want them around for it. I picked them up, of course, and X texted me on the drive home and asked again if I would babysit for them for $200 a week. I said no, and he called me a bitter bitch and said I'm being an asshole because I'm hurt. I don't see it this way at all. I reiterated that the request is absurd and I would not be talking about it anymore. This was yesterday, and all day today, new girlfriend has been texting me and having her friends and family review bomb my business. I'm not worried about it. My clients know my work. Ex-husband hasn't said anything else, but has been shorter with me in our conversations about our kids. So, am I the asshole for refusing to keep my ex-husband's new baby in a babysitting capacity?
Hachi machi.
Hachi machi.
Hachi machi.
I love when I don't have to
Oofa-doofa.
jump in first on these ones.
Yo, but no, you're not an asshole. Wow, that's a very
Thorough. It's thorough.
very thorough post. No, I do not think that you were. I mean, you could have been not an asshole very early in this conversation where you don't have to babysit other people's kids. I feel like we had this conversation in this post. No, in this episode, we've already said it. You don't have to babysit other people's kids. That's fine. Is it going to make things weird? Sure, but that's not really avoidable, I don't think. Because like you shouldn't just do things that people ask of you so that it's not weird. I think it's already weird. You have kids with a man that you're not over, and he has moved on evidently, or at least apparently moved on, and you're now in this position where you have kids with this guy, but like you have to be in contact with him. So it's complicated, very complicated. Fair enough. But that doesn't mean in order to like make peace, you have to go out of your way to do favors for this person. You're allowed to be, to take care of your kids, and that's that. That's 6 months after a 10-year marriage to be in a relationship is very soon after. So I'm sure there's a story there, I think. But I think that the way this person is treating you is deplorable. I think that this girlfriend is, and the husband, ex-husband, is being very inconsiderate of you and treating you like a default babysitter because you're convenient. But and I might be nuts here. Do babysitters not exist? Am I losing it? Like, is it such an expense that it's just non-feasible for most people? I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that, like, you would rather put strain on your relationship with your ex-wife than hire a babysitter. That seems wild to me. But anyway, that's not the person we're coaching here. The person we're coaching is the person who has been harassed and bullied, and they have every reason not to take it, and I'm completely on her side. um not that it matters what side we're on, but like, I think that she is doing the right thing, and I do not think she's an asshole, in summary.
Yeah, like when you think about it, when has there ever been a story, even like one of those goofy romantic comedies where somebody is like, even an ex-wife of like a long time, has the story ever happened where somebody says, "Here, ex-wife, watch my kid for $200 a week"? Now that's not, in Canada, certainly not. That's not even minimum wage for a full work week, right? So if you're a nurse, you're working 40, 50 hours a week, most likely, and now you're being paid $200 a week to watch. That's not even a job. You're not even employing your ex-wife at a reasonable rate. And where has there ever been a story where it's like, your ex-wife of less than a year, watch my newborn. That's gonna be fine, right? Like, we're on good terms, right? It's gonna feel great. No, it doesn't exist, and they're totally trying to take advantage of her financially. They're trying to take advantage of her position. They're not accessing other resources. They're trying to take what they believe to be an easier way out, and totally taking advantage of our original poster here. And it is totally bullying. Our original poster, I think, like, sometimes I feel, and we actually talk a lot about this, where somebody who is, not just being agreeable, that they're being an asshole. And in this case, like, it's okay to stand your ground. It's okay to, have the courage to be strong and say, no, thank you, I'm not doing that thing. Um, it's not fair of you to ask me that. And in this case, based on this story, it is literally absurd. And when you said no, the family and the friends are trying to take down your business as a result. This is how abuse works, right? Like, when you, like, we hear about it all the time in the dating world too, where um often, like, somebody says no to, one of those like jerky kind of guys, and then they start like immediately jumping to calling you a bitch because you said no to them. This is not okay, fair, reasonable behavior. I get that that couple, the ex and their partner, must be stressed out trying to figure it out, but that's not your responsibility, and it's not okay. I think, like, not only not an asshole, but I think they were more than reasonable in dealing with this situation. And what we would want to do now is just,
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that part, because she did go off on him
yeah, but
for during the story. I'm not saying that she's an asshole for the decision. I'm just saying, like, um don't you know don't go off on people um in order to alleviate the feelings that you feel. That's not a
sure.
great way to be either. We're not
Uh,
condoning that.
no, no, absolutely. And what I would want to do as a coach now, after like this, and we would just want to check in with their emotional state. Like, how are they feeling? They've mentioned that they're still not over the relationship. They're still grieving. They've moved on. There's a lot of work that we probably want to do there. And we would want to just like jump in, check in emotionally, and then jump into the real meat, which is that. And that lashing out, I'm going to take an educated guess that that's where that's coming from. and beyond that, just the sheer audacity. So totally not the asshole. And that ex-husband and their new partner, that's like, what's the word for that? Like, it's audacity. That's what it is.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Yikes is a good word.
Yowza.
I mean, the ex-girlfriend is 5 months pregnant and they've been divorced for 6 months. So I don't know.
Well, we don't know if they've been separated for a
I
long
don't know.
time or things like that too. We don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
there have been some
Yeah, I
divisive
agree with you.
ideas on this episode, to be sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And if you have any ideas, comments, you agree with us, you disagree with us, we'd love to hear it. We're not just gonna jump and call you an asshole or lash out at you. We're actually gonna talk to you and like get to like learn more about your opinion. You can send us a message.
Give us 5 stars. No messages. Give us 5 stars and then take us down a peg. Just ruin us in the comments. Just like really bring us down to earth. But 5 stars only.
Minimum 5 stars.
We'll not read anything less than 5 stars. Sorry.
Yeah, we will not settle for less. But if you
No, I'm kidding. You can message us.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can email us at jonathans@thejournalthattalksback.com with a Z. I'm just going to ignore everything you said. And then you can also find us on TikTok, Spotify.
I'll fix it in post.
Fix it in post. You can follow us at Am I the Bleep on TikTok, Journal That Talks Back on Instagram, and Facebook. That's the word for that social media. Unless they start charging us to use Facebook soon, which I heard might be a thing, in which case you're not going to find us.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Come on, Zooks.
Meta.
What you doing? Meta. And where else can they find us, John? Did you forget to search
We're
up
on grono.net. No, I got it. Defunct nothing. This is definitely
This is real.
It's a discussion forum that shares photos, links to cultural events in particular cities, the sale of property, and job searches. So this is a one-stop shop, kids. Grono.net. How do you think Rono is spelt, if you had to guess?
Rono? Like
Grono.
It would be kind of like how Scooby-Doo would say it is how I would spell it. Grono. Like Groano, like that kind of thing.
Interesting. I would have said that too, but I guess they didn't want the association with the word grown. It's Grono.
Oh, Grono.
Yeah. This is why. Yeah. Oh, interesting. That's Grono. I think it's a bad name.
And I also think
they went defunct.
I think that word defunct would be like the perfect like Ramstein Red Hot Chili Pepper cover band name. Defunct.
Defunct?
Yeah, like
defunct. Grono.
Yeah.
Defunct.
I'm so
Send
sorry.
us an email about what our band name should be based on the defunct social media. That's what I want in the emails, and then I want reviews that take us down a peg and nothing. No positive comments.
But give us 5 stars. I don't want any but 5 stars minimum.
Yeah, it has to be 5 stars.
You can say your shit, but 5 stars.
Yeah, let it out. Don't hold back. 5 stars. Do you want a quote that'll help us grow and become better people?
Yeah, don't hold back on that either.
This quote is a real thinker, and it's, "We acquire the assholes we have overcome."